Welcome to Canal Chronicles 2026. As you all know, my name is Corey Hubza, the new President and CEO of Loop Power District. We'd like to start out with kind of giving a little information about what went on in the board meeting today. As you all know from previous Canal Chronicles, we talk a lot about FERC and what went on with district water issues, but it was a little different this time. We did discuss FERC and our non-capacity license amendment, and that we are at a point where we have the environmental assessment approved, and we're just waiting for FERC to give our final approval on our license amendment. Until that time, we are still holding the 8th Court of Appeals in abeyance until we receive that license capacity amendment. So with the 8th Court of Appeals, we did refile that in December 2025. And that is good until February of 2026, which we intend to refile that here in February and keep filing that until we get our final amendment back from FERC. Other issues that we spoke about was Lake Babcock dredging and the sedimentation that's going on in Lake Babcock. In 2025, we performed a feasibility study on Lake Babcock. The purpose of that feasibility study was to evaluate the cost and the approach that we would take to remove the sedimentation out of Lake Babcock, and also to look at what we could do to prevent that from happening again. Because as you know, it doesn't make a lot of sense to spend a lot of money removing that material from the lake and then just to have it fill back in over the next couple of years. We got to a point that the feasibility of that project actually looks very favorable to do this project. In fact, it was so favorable that we were able to get an additional grant from the state to help pay for prints and specifications. So we're at a point that we are developing engineering design prints and specifications that go along with it for all the features that would have to get built into Lake Babcock to create a dredge basin along with the new lake design of what it would look like. And it would be a lake that would be built adjacent to Lake North on the west side. With the Lake Babcock project, as you know, with the feasibility study, there is a price point to where it makes it the cost affordable to our company to do this project. With our new hydropower purchase contract, we are able to take those new values and input them into this feasibility study so that we get current numbers and we can evaluate on today's standards and today's numbers. We look very forward to this project because it was a very marketable project before, but with the new numbers in there, we believe that this project becomes even more feasible to do, and it makes it more likely that we'll receive a federal grant to go ahead and do this project in upcoming years. And that is the goal of this project, to find a way to make it cost affordable for Loop Power to go ahead and remove the sedimentation, allowing us additional capacity in our lakes, which allow us additional generation power when we need it. So this truly is a good project for the company, and I'm excited that we're moving forward with it and doing these engineering prints at this time. Other issues that we spoke about today was hydroelectric generation for 2025. Kind of did a year in review, and 2025 overall, with the amount of rain that we've received throughout the year, we had adequate water in the Loop River, which allowed us to take in additional water in the Loop Canal. Even though prices were not the greatest because we didn't have irrigation load and a lot of other capacity being utilized, we were still able to generate a decent amount of power out of our powerhouse. We finished the year about 11.9% over the average generation values for the powerhouse. So figuring on an annual average year, we're 11.9% over. That's working in the right direction for our company. We also talked about the Creston Ridge wind farm. Did a 2025 year in review of the Creston wind farm, Creston Ridge 1 and Creston Ridge 2. Most generally, when those projects were developed, they were developed with a 43% capacity factor. So anytime we receive better than 43% capacity factor, you know that the wind farm is doing its part to help pay for the asset that's out there. This year, we were at 50.1% and 48.5% capacity factor for the two wind farms up there. So that ends the 2025 year on a pretty good note for capacity for the Creston Ridge wind farm. Throughout the year, we did have several months that the capacity hit during the demand time of the year, which when you can hit your capacity during the demand, that is actually what helps drive our rates down, because we're trimming that demand charge off that we have to pay, and we're getting us to a lower demand charge, and that keeps our prices more affordable. So this year, the wind farm did do its part to help drive costs down. So that was a positive for us. Another main issue that we talked about, and this has been a reoccurring issue, is rates for the district. As you know, we've had to increase rates throughout the years, and this last year we've had to have an increase in our actual rates for our power usage. We also look at throughout the year different rates for different services that we provide. One of those this month that we looked at were the canal water use irrigation rates. We have up to a little over 80 users in our canal that utilize water from our canal for their own personal use, whether it be for farming or industrial use and things of that nature. Those rates have not been adjusted in over 13 years, and we have been running at $10 an acre foot is what we charge them for water. That $10 an acre foot helps make up the lost revenue that we would have from that water, and it helps pay for the maintenance that goes on with the canal system and the parks that have to be in place to serve that water. Recently, the cost of the water usage has went up due to increased power usage prices and increased maintenance costs. So in evaluating that, Loop Management went to the board with a proposal to the board members that we increase the cost of our canal water use from $10 to $10.75. That's a 7.5% increase over what it was previously. In evaluating that, we looked at an average irrigation use year, which would be 2023. That was one of the higher irrigation years. And we looked at the highest water usage to an average water usage. And that was going to raise people's annual bills anywhere from $46 to $130. We felt that was reasonable to ask that we increase that rate by 7.5%, because it would allow us to be able to make up for the lost revenue that we would get from lost generation of utilizing that water for other uses, and to also help pay for the maintenance costs that we have associated with maintaining that canal, serving that water to our customers. During the rates discussion, we also discussed water heaters. Along with many other things that we need to look at, water heaters has been one of those areas that we haven't looked at for a couple of years. Water heaters have been set at $5.50 for many years, and with the cost in the last few years since COVID, the price of water heaters have doubled in price, and the installation charges have greatly increased as well. With that increase, we did a 10-year amortization of these costs and evaluated it based on 10 years, because the United States average lifespan of a water heater now is 10.3 years. So amortizing that out over 10 years helps us evaluate a true payback model for these water heaters, not taking into effect administration and other overhead costs associated with it, but specifically the water heater itself and the installation fees. By doing that, we came up with an average cost per water heater of $6.99 is what we need so that Loop Power is 100% paid off with that water heater by the time that it's reached the end of its useful life. We realize that we're increasing water heaters by 27.3%, which is a fairly significant increase. Realistically, that water heater cost with all administration costs should be slightly higher than what it is. But at $7, that allows us to recoup all of these expenses and still remain whole on the water heater. And this gets us in the right place to be financially stable in the water heater rental business that we're doing. The last thing that we had at the board meeting today was we discussed payroll and retirements. And one thing I wanted to point out was a resolution was passed today for Jim Hoge to honor his 44 years of service with the district. Jim is retiring this week. So anybody that has a chance, please give Jim your congratulations. And we'd like to thank him for all of his years of service that he has provided to this company. And with that, I would like to thank you for your time today, and hope that you have a safe work week and a safe work year as well, and look out for each other and do the best that we can.